This week's Black Clover chapter was epic, and wasting no time at all. Last chapter we saw the full display of power of Lucifero in this final form state, and even though this dynamic duo between Yami and Nacht has been a sight to see combining their powers with Mana Zone using Kid's Playground spell, it hasn't been enough for the sheer force of power of gravity that is coming from Lucifero in this state. Just like it hasn't been enough for you guys subscribing to the channel, notification bells on, and leaving a like on the video. Now, even though Yuno and Asta joined the fight, it did not even the playing field, especially in Asta's case because he was actually a detriment to the team in most cases because of his anti-magic was resonating everywhere. Yuno couldn't back Asta up with his star magic, and Nacht and Yami couldn't perform Kid's Playground properly. Even while Yami tried to protect Asta, he even damaged his arm. But Yuno was able to save Yami before Lucifero did a final strike. Asta also saved Nacht in the process because he almost lost an arm, but Asta also gets damaged on the receiving end. And right before Lucifero did a final strike against Asta, Yuno comes in to save him and made a critical decision, placing all his bets on Yami with his star magic because he has his captain's sword. Which brings us now to Black Clover Chapter 326, which is titled Brothers. The chapter begins with Yuno using the last bit of his star magic to teleport Yami and Nacht to Lucifero, and Nacht and Yami use a combo spell against Lucifero, which is called Doppelganger. In a form of shadow and dark magic, you can see the shape of the sword is still intact of the sword that William gave to Yami. So in a way, this is like a 3 combo spell magic attack because they are using World Tree magic for the baseline of the sword with a combination of dark magic and shadow magic. This is very impressive, and by no surprise, Adrian Malik is having an enjoyable time watching this. However, before they could even do an attack on Lucifero with this doppelganger spell, Lucifero impales them with arms growing through his back. Now, this lets us know that Lucifero has more tricks up his sleeves when it comes to his transformation. We have seen devils many times change their shape of forms when they are in a transformed state. We've seen it with Megicula, we also seen it with Zagger when he created many mouths. With the multiple arms of Lucifero, the multiple eyes with Megicula, and the multiple mouths of Zagred, it seems as though devils in a transformed state can go further beyond and multiply traits about themselves. It makes me interested to see if that can happen with Liebe, but I will say that for a different video. Asta is now alone and Lucifero is face to face with him, and he goes for a strike and he tells Asta this is the end. A punch that is intending to kill Asta is looking at death right at his face. Before that happens, Asta and Liebe are now in a trance, and Asta is seeing all of the memories that Liebe have experienced, and he's seeing his mother Lasita. However, Asta does not know that this is his mother. But now he knows that her name is Lasita and that Liebe has a very strong connection to her, and spent all those years being inside the grimoire cursing devils, and that is how anti-magic came about. Liebe talks about that in the end he was no match against Lucifero. Tabata is showing us that still to this day, Liebe is blaming himself for Lasita dying. This is why he holds such a grudge and hate for devils, and especially Lucifero. He states that I hate him, but it's not just Lucifero, I would never forgive myself. If only if I had magic. If only if I stayed in the underworld. If I never met Lasita, she would have never died. With so much pain, agony, and sadness, Liebe starts to cry, screaming out, "I'm so sorry, Mom." And it's sad to know that Liebe is walking around with this heavy burden, knowing that he believes that Lasita's death is all his fault. He's putting the blame more on him than Lucifero, and that is crazy. Asta sees this and comes to recognize that Liebe is in so much pain and he had no idea he was. Asta talks about that he dealt with his hardship as well because he was the only person in the world without magic that he knows of, so he had to face obstacles and adversities as well. And he believes it's because of those hardships that's how him and Liebe met. Liebe's pain and anger became Asta's strength. And I have to say that this moment reminds me of the sequence between Asta and Patri. It's like Asta has this special hidden ability where he can go into someone's consciousness and talk to them. Maybe this is Asta's magic type. Asta then thanks Liebe and tells him that he is very grateful that they met, because alone Asta believes that they cannot do anything, but together they can fight. And these words echo the 50-50 contract that he made with Liebe, because he believes that without him, he cannot do anything, and also vice versa in Liebe's case. They are both anomalies in this world full of magic, how Liebe was an outcast in the underworld and Asta was an outcast in the human realm, and this bond that they now share, especially Liebe knowing the fact that the mother that raised him is the mother of his partner, Asta, the person that relates to him more than anybody in the world. And now that Asta saw the memories of Liebe and what he went through, this only going to make their bond grow even further. And Asta is reminding Liebe that he is not alone because they are in this together. And right before they get out of this trance, Asta tells Liebe, "Let's go, brother." And you know what? They are technically brothers because he was raised by his mother, who took him in and called Liebe her child. So in a way, Liebe is Asta's adopted brother, which seems to be the case with every single one of Asta's siblings because every single one of them are adopted. Now viewing Liebe as a brother and more than just a partner, this changes things, and this is only going to make their devil contract even stronger, even in devil union mode, because the bond they have is different from every devil host we have seen so far. And I think that's what makes Asta and Liebe so strong together, because they have a lot in common and have more to relate about. However, we don't see the dynamic between Nacht and his devils that much. We just know that they really care for him. They even cried because they thought he was going to die. And as the story progresses, the more we see Nacht, I think we're going to see more of a connection between him and his devils and how they all interact together. I think that'll be dope when we see that later in the story. But with this new developed bond that we see with Asta and Liebe in this chapter, I really love it. Because Asta learning about Liebe's backstory and his pain and his trauma that he went through was very important, because now they can finally have that dialogue with one another about Lisita, because Asta's gonna ask, who is Lisita truly? And I believe Liebe is going to tell Asta that that was your mother, which can then do a follow-up question later in the story of who is his father. Like, does he even have a father, or his father is a devil, or it can just be a human that cursed his mother? It's so many possibilities, and I'm excited to see that reveal later in the story. Now back in the present time, right before Lucifero was going to strike Asta, Asta blocks his punch with his katana slasher, and he tells him that he does not care that he is the king of devils. How dare you kill my partner's mother? And that was the end of the chapter. Now if you notice at the ending panel, Asta Devil Union is at his 5-minute mark, but Asta grew another horn, which makes it the 5th horn that's on his head. This means that Asta is going through another metamorphosis in his devil form. This could only mean that he is gaining complete mastery in his Devil Union form, or he is creating a new form in its entirety because the 5 minutes is up. Because his Devil Union form is actually disappearing, because you can see his black bull cloak. Even the Devil Union crown that was shaped from his headband is even gone. This is an entire new transformation, which means we are going to see new abilities from Asta in his brand new devil form state. Because we talked about how devils, when they evolve, their forms start to change. It's like they multiply certain traits about themselves. And maybe in Liebe's case with Asta, he gets more horns. Obviously, that just can't be the case, because something else is going on here, more than just the horns. But I think Asta's entire appearance is going to change, and we're going to see that next chapter. Overall, this was a very fun chapter, but this was a short chapter nonetheless. But with everything that happened in this chapter, we need to talk about the possibilities on what's going on with Asta receiving a new devil horn and what power he will have. But I will save that for a whole different video. But if you want to stick around to see that video, be sure to subscribe to the channel with notification bells on. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know how you felt about this chapter. You guys have an awesome life. Take care of yourselves, stay blessed, and we're out.